let's revisit an old talking point on this particular channel. How do we maximize the return on investing in collectibles? And there's an excellent article. I think I covered this particular article once before on this YouTube channel. It was actually written by antique and collectible expert Wayne Jordan, who wrote a book that I'm holding up right here called The Business of Antiques. Check it out if you haven't already. This is an excellent book to read. It doesn't matter if you are solely involved in pop culture collectibles. I assure you, you will still get something out of this book, even though it is entitled The Business of Antiques. Now, with that being said, Wayne Jordan writes for Antique Trader. For the record, I write for Antiques and Auction News. So Wayne Jordan is a well-respected expert in the antiques and collectibles trade. He put out this article entitled How to Maximize the Return on Your Collectibles Investment. I am going to put a link to this particular article in the video description below. We are going to go through it today so I can give you my take on it, because I want you to know that this advice is eternal. This advice never changes. The core concepts that are presented in this particular article are eternal. Now, I know a lot of you guys tell me, Sean, I hate how long your videos are. Can you just get right to the point? Here is the core crux of this entire video. I'm going to give it to you right now. Research shows that profit generated by taking short-term gains often results in a higher return on investment than holding most items long-term. Let me read that again. Research shows that profit generated by taking short-term gains often results in a higher return on investment than holding most items long-term. So what does that mean? That means short-term gains are the key to your success. If you're attempting to maximize your profits in the collectibles marketplace, short-term gains are the key to your long-term success. Now, with that being said, now that we're 2 minutes into this video, I already gave you the answer that you need. Now we're going to take the time to go through this particular article, and I'm going to give you all more nuggets of advice to help you succeed in these markets. How's that? See what you get when you subscribe to Reserved Investments. You get all this content and more free of charge 24/7. So here we go, guys. Let's dive right in. According to the article, to my way of thinking, there are 3 ways to become involved in the antiques and collectibles business: as a dealer, as a collector, or an investor. Following is a discussion of maximizing the return on your collectibles investment. A mentor once said to me, "You can be a dealer or you can be a collector, but you can't be both." What he wanted to impart was that a dealer shouldn't save the best stuff for himself, because the profit generated by those items could represent the difference between a healthy or a struggling business. The same rule can be applied to collectibles. You can be a collector or an investor, but not both. Meaning, you can hold, i.e. collect an item for the long term, or you can sell it when the investment return meets your criteria and then reinvest the profit in another item. Despite popular advice to only buy what you like, buyers often rationalize purchases by stating this will only go up in value. In a 1999 American Economic Association publication titled Measuring Returns on Investments in Collectibles, author Benjamin Burton points out a substantial portion of collectors hope for financial gains. In a survey of 154 antique and pop culture memorabilia collectors, 35% cited investment as their primary motive for collecting. In a survey of a broad range of collectors, 22% of respondents gave financial investment as a motivation for their collecting pursuits. It's not too much of a stretch then to say that about 1/4 of all collectible purchases are made with the expectation of financial gain. But to what extent is financial gain actually happening? How can collectible investors maximize their return on investment? One method is to use the same methods that Wall Street investors use. Here we go, guys. Number 1, determine your desired return on investment. When you hit that threshold, sell. Doing so requires discipline. The tendency is to hold an item as long as the prices keep going up. Be aware that other collectors may be holding the same item. As selling prices rise, these collectibles will come to market and the greater supply will flatten and or lower prices. This is Economics 101, supply versus demand. Keep a close watch on the supply of an item coming to market. As long as the supply is declining and demand stays steady, your item will probably continue to go up in price. eBay's completed sales search can provide a glimpse of an item's supply, sell-through, and high and low prices achieved. The condition, rarity, and provenance of your collectible will dictate where you want to be within the item's range of selling prices. You'll need to consider selling fees, shipping, and other expenses into your ROI determination. You're looking for net profit ROI, not gross profit. Find a selling venue that works for you and stick with it. Now, there is one exception here, guys. This is why I like to invest long-term in truly scarce and high-profile items. Proof gold coins, vintage Star Wars prototype items, certain very hard-to-find vintage comic books, items of that nature. Those particular items you have to be careful with, because if you choose to sell them, in a lot of cases, you're not going to be able to buy them back as easy as a common run-of-the-mill mass-produced item. So you need to keep that in mind. There are differences here. So when I give this advice, just know I'm dispensing it under the guise of you're buying something like a giant size X-Men 1 in CGC 9.4 condition. You're buying something like a Morgan silver dollar in MS64 condition. You're buying a copy of Super Mario 3D All-Stars for the Nintendo Switch. You're buying a copy of Super Mario Sunshine for the Nintendo GameCube. Items that are easily replaced, not something that is really going to be very difficult to find again on the secondary market. And in certain instances, you may never encounter it again. If those are the items that make up your collection, you really have some soul searching to do. Do you really want to part with that item? Is it really worth parting with that item if you're just going to go and try to buy it back again at some point in time? And these are a lot of the discussions that I have with some of my high-profile clients, because I am a consultant in the antiques and collectibles trade. Shameless plug. If you do want to use my services or learn more, send an email to reservedinvestments@gmail.com and I will respond personally. With that being said, though, a lot of those individuals always have to weigh the risk versus reward, because some of those individuals have items that are valued in the high six figures, even low millions of dollars range. And if they sell those particular items, they may never, ever be able to get them back again. So that is something that you got to understand. So let's go on to the second core concept here, and that is learn to cut your losses. And this is something that we can all learn from, right, guys? Not all of your purchases will be winners. Don't hold on to an item hoping that the price will go up. If you do, you'll eventually own an accumulation of items you are upside down on, and that could end up, you could end up in a hoarder situation as a result of that, guys. That's why I really caution about really using discipline and understanding what you are buying and why you are buying it. There's a lot of people that do not understand how to analyze the items that they are buying from an investment standpoint. And that's really what I teach on this particular channel. Back to the article. Wall Street advisors recommend setting a loss threshold and selling any item that hits that threshold. Investors Business Daily suggests selling a poorly performing stock when the loss hits at about 8% or less of your purchase price. If you bought an item for $100 and the price for similar items hits $93 to $95 and is trending downward, then sell and take the loss. If you win on 2 items out of 3, your long-term gains can still be exponential. This is something that you guys really need to understand, because I have a lot of people in some of these pop culture collecting categories like Pokemon or Lego or Magic the Gathering or comic books or video games. And they keep coming to me telling me that they're making all this money. And every once in a while, I will get some of them to open up their proverbial business books to me. And I'll go through the business books and it makes no sense. In all honesty, a lot of these individuals are making a very small return on investment when you look at the aggregate. You know, this goes back to a lot of the earlier videos that I've done when I started talking first about limited run games. There's a lot of people out there, every time Limited Run Games releases a new video game in their series, they go and they order it and they put it on a shelf. Well, what happens is over time, they have all of these limited run video games on a shelf. They have 50, 100, 200 of these games. And 3 of them will go up in value. And I'll get an email and they'll say, Sean, you don't understand. These 3 games, if I sell these 3 games, the return on investment on these 3 games, I'm going to sell that game that I paid $30 for. I'm going to get $200 for it. And this will cause me to engage in a longer conversation where I'll ask them, well, how many other of these games did you buy? How many limited run games do you have? And they'll tell me, what do you mean? I have 200 of them, or I have 300 of these limited run games. Well, if only 3 went up in value and were home runs, I hate to tell you, you lost your proverbial ass. You're not making any money. You just got lucky because you chose to collect limited run games and a couple of them went up in value. And if you choose to sell into the market, you can profit on those few games. If you sold all of them, if you sold the entire aggregate, you would be in the negative. So you're really not making as much money as you think. And these are some of the conversations that I have with Pokemon collectors. These are some of the conversations that I have with Lego investors. Everybody thinks that they're making a ton of money, but they're not looking at the aggregate. You know, guys, the inventory that you have, that you are not churning and burning, is just sitting there costing you money day in, day out. If you would have that money invested in a total stock market index fund or an S&P 500 index fund, each day it would at least be potentially earning you more money. Your inventory is not always an asset. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. In most cases, a lot of you guys that are collectors, that like to convince yourself that you're an investor or you're something else, you're somebody who understands these markets, you're making a ton of money in these markets, most of you need to realize that in most cases, you are sitting on assets that are really liabilities, but because you have an emotional attachment to them, you think that they're assets. And that's what's costing you success in these markets. Your own emotional attachment. You can't get past your own love for these objects. You know, it's just like there's an old saying, if you're going to be a drug dealer, don't get high on your own supply. And that's what a lot of you guys are doing. You're not learning how these markets work. And there's a lot of bad advice out there on YouTube, on TikTok, on collecting forums, on investing forums even. People give a lot of bad advice. And unfortunately, nobody sits down and analyzes the loss of return on investment from just tying up their capital in a lot of this inventory that is not moving. It's no different if you go on the wonderful Facebook group, eBay Thrifters. You're going to come across people that have all these death piles, all this merchandise that is just sitting there costing them money. In all honesty, they ought to sell it at a loss. They ought to just cut the cord, consider it unsellable inventory, get whatever they can out of it, and use that money to buy inventory that will sell. You don't get rich by hoarding dead inventory. The key to success in these markets is to think like a speculator, think like somebody who runs a business and wants to churn and burn their inventory on a regular basis. And by the way, the core crux of this, a lot of you guys ask me, what is the problem that I have with some of these other YouTubers out there? Like I'm going to pick on Rudy with Alpha Investments because I know he can handle it. And I know he occasionally watches my videos. My problem with some of the advice that some of these people give is, well, if you go into the market and you buy this factory seal booster box and you set it over here, maybe in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years time, it's going to accrue in value, and somebody is going to want to own that particular booster box because they never bought it in the overall open market when that booster box was originally being sold at retail. Well, the problem with that logic is you are tying all that money up in inventory that is just sitting there. If you really wanted to turn a profit, you would churn and burn it. Now, it can be hard to do that on modern era products because pretty much everybody in today's day and age, whether it's Lego, whether it's Magic the Gathering, whether it's Pokemon, whether it's Yu-Gi-Oh, whether it's Amiibo, whether it's video games, everybody's hoarding this shit. Let's be realistic. But that is how you make money. You churn and burn the inventory. You don't hold it for the long term. That is a mistake, especially with modern era mass-produced products. Want to make that distinction very clear. Now, to be fair, I do agree with Rudy. When Rudy's able to buy vintage Magic the Gathering products like Arabian Nights or Beta or Alpha or Legends or Antiquities, when he's able to buy those high-profile cards and he's only paying a percentage of current market value for them, I do agree if he's going to the market and he's buying, let's say, I don't know, let's pick a card here, a dual land from Alpha or Beta or even, heaven forbid, Revised, and he's paying 70 cents on the dollar for that card, meaning he's only paying 70% of the going market rate, and he's going to put that card away for a rainy day, or if he wants to hold it even 10, 20 years, I agree, because he didn't pay full retail for that item. Now, you can make an argument, well, Sean, by that logic, he's getting all that modern era Magic the Gathering products at wholesale prices. That's true too, but so is everybody else. Let's be realistic here. Hoarding a lot of that stuff for the long term is not a prudent investment, in my opinion. It's not a prudent investment in most experts' opinion who operate in the antiques and collectibles trade. That's something that you got to understand. So let's go to point 3 here. Consider the tax implications. When you hold a collectible long-term and then sell, the profit is taxed as capital gains. But when you churn your purchases, profits are taxed as ordinary income, even though the activity may be casual. For a more thorough exploration of this topic, see my May 2015 Behind the Gavel column, When Does a Hobby Become a Business? And there is a hyperlink here. You guys can click on it if you do want to read that article as well. If you have a question about this particular topic, please see your tax advisor. So I'll leave that one open-ended. Just know, guys, there are 3 types of income: passive, portfolio, and earned. When you guys go to your corporate job day in, day out, if you punch a clock, if you're salaried, that is earned income. That is taxed at a very high rate compared to passive income or portfolio income. Now, full disclosure, my favorite type of income is portfolio income. This is income that comes in the form of capital gains and dividends from financial assets. Cash flows, interest payments, corporate bond payments, all that fun stuff. That's my favorite type of income. Do you know why? It's taxed at a lower rate than that of earned income, and even it's taxed at a lower rate of that of collectibles. Just giving you a little tidbit there. Again, see a tax advisor. I'm not giving you tax advice in this particular video. Don't get your advice for taxes from YouTube, please. Last particular talking point. Consider opportunity costs. And this is a big one, guys. Wise investors hold on to their seed money. They set aside financial reserve and enough money to start over if you need to. All remaining money should be invested in sellable collectibles. This again, if you want to do this full time, you want to become a dealer, here is one strategy you can employ. But set limits on how much inventory you want to invest in. As many dealers will attest, the antique and collectible business can take over your life. You may be sorely tempted to open a store or a mall booth. If you do so, expect your profits to plummet because your expenses will be greater. You can't be a shop owner and an investor at the same time. This is why I'm going to give a plug now to Rudy with Alpha Investments. He does some excellent videos on why the average Timmy, Kimmy, or Poindexter should not open up a collectibles store, whether it's devoted to collectible card games like Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, Lego, video games, whatever. Watch those videos. They are spectacular. Rudy does an excellent job explaining that to the average person, much better than I can. I'm going to give him credit there. Being an antiques dealer is a uniquely rewarding career, and being a collector is satisfying on a personal level. Investing in collectibles is a fun and financially rewarding hobby that works best when pursued on a casual basis. In other words, don't quit your day job to become a collectibles investor. Guys, I am a consultant in the antiques and collectibles trade. I'm going to end this particular video this way. I have a waiting list right now of people that want to talk to me because they made major mistakes in these markets during the pandemic when prices were trending at all-time highs. I have people that lost more than 6 to 7 figures on antiques and collectibles and are now trying to get out of those particular items that they are upside down on. I have other particular individuals coming to me because they're in the office of a divorce attorney at present time because during the pandemic, they went crazy with comic books, Pokemon cards, graded video games, and other pop culture collectibles to the point that their wife has already left them. This was back in 2021 and 2022. Today in 2023, their divorces will soon be finalized. Make no mistake, these markets are not without risk. Please, if you are going to invest in antiques and collectibles, whether it be over the short term or over the long term, please do so responsibly. Please understand these are unregulated markets. Here's another nugget of wisdom. If you remember, many, many years ago, back in 2010, when Storage Wars first premiered, there were reports of people quitting their day jobs simply because a reality cable TV show premiered that showed people making money by bidding on storage auctions. This is how stupid most of the people in our society are. Please, if you want to make money, if you want to build wealth, usually doing the opposite of what stupid people are doing is at least one way to ensure you can at least set yourself up to build wealth. Learn from this. Please do not make stupid decisions simply because you have an emotional attachment to Pokemon cards or Magic the Gathering or video games or whatever your favorite collecting category is. And yes, that extends to antiques, that extends to coins, that extends to edged weapons, that extends to historical documents. Understand, income-producing assets should make up the majority of your financial portfolio. Not antiques, not collectibles, not meme stocks, not penny stocks, not cryptocurrency, not gold, not silver, not commodities. Learn from this. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and have a great night.